On the flip side, the under never in doubt at 36.5. And for the second straight week, the worst team in football cannot score a point. Carolina did have a field goal attempt when the game was 6-0. It didn't go, and they have still a 0 on the board to end their season at 2-15. All right, let's break down the NFC South winning Bucs. I've got Rick Spielman and Pete Prisco here with me. Rick, I'll start with you. It wasn't pretty, but Tampa Bay got it done, and now they're going to the postseason with a home game. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, well, luckily they played the Carolina Panthers, who was the worst team in football. So give them credit. They won the NFC South 9-0. But I have major concerns about them going into the postseason. I don't think their offense is clicking right now. Baker Mayfield's hurt. He has the ribs. It looked like he had a lower leg injury. They haven't run the ball as effectively, and their defense has to step up. Carolina's offense is horrible, but you saw what happened when they played against a good offense in Derek Carr in New Orleans last week. They got carved up on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the offense. And the protection hadn't been good the last couple weeks, and I didn't see the numbers here, but they seem like they've been sped up a little bit. Baker Mayfield's playing hurt. I think offensively, that's the biggest concern for me. And they had been hot offensively before last week, so all of a sudden that's cooled down, and you're going to play whoever you play. You're going to play a team that's going to score points. And so I think that's the biggest concern. Defensively, they've actually made improvements over the course of the season, but I'm more worried about the other side of the ball, the offense.
So you mentioned, the team that they'll face will probably score a lot of points. I mentioned that they're going to be at home, but they're probably going to be underdogs. It's going to be the loser of the NFC East, whether that's Philly or Dallas. Rick, if I were to ask you who Tampa Bay matches up better against, which team would that be?
Ooh, I'm going to have to say Philly, because Philly doesn't play very good on defense either, and their offense hasn't been what it was last year. Dallas, to me, they can go down and they can put points on the board, and who knows what Dan Quinn's going to come up with to stifle that Tampa offense. But if I was Tampa Bay, I hope I'm playing Philly.
Absolutely. I'd prefer to play Philly. The one thing about Philly is they haven't rushed the passer as well as they had in years past, particularly last year. Dallas can rush the passer, so if they get a lead on you, they're going to turn their pass rushers loose, and we saw that with New Orleans last week. They had problems with their pass rush, so I think that would be more of a team that would be in the way of Tampa Bay. Look, Tampa Bay's at home. That's a big advantage, but I think both of these teams will be a, touchdown favorite or close to it against them, so it's going to be tough sledding for them.
The only thing it wasn't a home advantage when New Orleans went and they had a chance to lock up the NFC South last week and got beat by New Orleans at home.
So macro in terms of the NFC South, it played out exactly the way we thought, that the teams weren't going to be great, but there was a chance for really any of the three, take Carolina the mix, any of the three teams to win. It came down to the final week. Pete, how would you sort of describe how this division played out with, of course, Tampa winning, but you had Atlanta and New Orleans still having a shot going into today?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was not a good division, and everybody thought it would be a bad division. It would be one of those where somebody had to win it, and that's basically what you're getting. You're getting a team that scored 9 points against Carolina and was blown out last week, limping its way into the division title. So that's pretty much how we thought it would play out. I didn't think Carolina was going to be very good this year at all. Surprisingly, they were a higher favorite than Tampa was going into the season, which I didn't see. But again, it's a team that's not very good and won a division. We've seen this before, though, where the team that won the division actually won the playoff game when we didn't think they were very good. So it could happen. I don't know if it will happen.
It's not going to happen.
No.
The NFC South is the worst division in the NFL and the worst teams in the NFL. And even though you get a home field advantage, and you get a home, it's by default.
Right.
Because if you really went the way where you just stacked everybody best to worst, they wouldn't be in it, even though they won a division.
Congratulations if you had a Tampa Bay futures. A lot of people put their money in Atlanta. A lot of people put their money in New Orleans. Not a lot of people put their money on Tampa Bay to come away with the division with questions at quarterback, especially even entering the season with Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. Here's a list of teams that made the playoffs after a 4-7 start in NFL history. The Jags were able to do it most recently last year. The Bucs now joining them in 20.
Go here. All right, let's go the opposite way. Rick, you're first here. What are you seeing with Tampa playing it very close to the vest at Bank of America as we're now inside 5 minutes in the first half with the Bucs having a 3-0 lead?
Well, you knew their defense was going to get back on track because Carolina Panthers offense hasn't been very good all season. But what I'm concerned about is the way Baker Mayfield is playing. Last week he didn't play. He had 2 picks. Had his worst probably performance in over 4 or 5 games, and I know he's banged up, and I was more concerned about when you saw him coming off the field, not the ribs, but all of a sudden he started limping, whether it was some kind of leg or knee injury, but he's not completely healthy, and if he's not going, they struggle to go.
It's a big-time problem, especially where their defense has played, giving up a lot of yards and chunks on the outside in the pass defense in particular. However, this matchup, this is the hard thing for me with the Bucs, is just trying to figure out a team like the Panthers. I know they're a divisional opponent. They've struggled all year long. I mean, the defense has showed up today for Tampa, but the offense hasn't. And I know, look, Baker's dealing with the ribs. He's dealing with, looks like an ankle injury, too, with the way he went down earlier. They still aren't capitalizing on some of the plays that are there. And that's a concerning thing, but this is the NFC South, Pete. This has been a division that's struggled all year. Whoever ends up winning, whether it's Tampa or the winner of the Atlanta-New Orleans, I think they're going to be a one-and-done once they get into the playoffs.
Yeah, particularly if Baker Mayfield's playing or hurt like he is right now. And he also looked like he got a lower leg injury at one point in this game to go with the rib injury. So they got a break, too, because Chark looked like he was going in for a touchdown and fumbled it out of the back of the end zone. They would have been up 7-0. So not very good start right now for the Bucs.
And look, at least if you're the Bucs or the Falcons or the Saints, if you win the division, you get to play at home, right? I mean, you got a shot if someone's got to come down to New Orleans and go in that division. Clearly, they would be the underdogs, and they'll probably be looking at the Eagles. So that's not going to be fun, although it doesn't seem to be the same daunting Eagle team as last year when they entered the playoffs. And let's get to that Falcons-Saints game, because if somehow the Bucs trip up here, we're looking at potentially, I mean, this game's for the division, right? I mean, you got 7-9 and 8-8, right? There you have it. At the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, 14-14. Look at Desmond Ridder. This was a guy that had the knock that he could play at home but wasn't very good on the road. Well, not only in the road, but he's in the division, and it's a loud place, but he is 7 for 7 for $168 and a couple of touchdowns, including a long one to Bijan Robinson, who now has 8 touchdowns on the year. Brady, you're first. Atlanta, New Orleans, have you taken anything from this game, or is this just, hey, these two teams are about even, someone's going to win, and they're going to wait it out and see if they can back into a division title here?
I think that's one way of putting it, EK, is you could say that they're pretty even. You got to give a lot of credit to Desmond Ridder, though, who was benched. Heineke came in for him. Now he gets the starting role again due to Heineke being injured, and he's playing some great football. He's taking care of the football. He's been efficient. He's made the right throws and reads so far, but it's more about, to me, the Saints defense. As we looked at this team as the favorite to win the NFC South, probably the biggest favorite of anyone in the actual NFC playoff picture before the season started, and they've been woeful in regards to those expectations, how they perform defensively. I mean, this should be a layup for them at home, a must-win game for them if they want to have any hopes of the postseason. They can't get pressure on Ridder. He's so far torching them to the point where they don't even have have them any passing attempts because they've been so efficient so far. But on the flip side, Derek Carr and this offense is keeping pace. So we'll see how this one finishes up. But I think it's again another indication of the fact that this is a tight division, but it's just one that I don't think there's much postseason aspirations outside of whoever wins is in and probably right back out.
So basically, you're nicely saying that the team that wins the division is going to be stinks anyways. They all stink. It's been a bad division all year round. Bijan Robinson finally getting some action in the passing game. That was impressive. They should have been using him a lot more this year. They didn't, surprisingly. But Ritter's played well, and give him a lot of credit because a lot of people didn't think he could do this on the road.
No, and Derek Carr may be one of the hottest quarterbacks over the last 3 or 4 weeks, the way he played against Tampa. And where is that defense that we saw that shut down Tampa last week with the New Orleans Saints? They're letting Ridder carve him up and down the field. I mean, he was dead and gone. I think, Pete, you took the shovel and buried him about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but he did that with the Packers, and he could always dig him right back up.
Oh, he does? He keeps that shovel so he can dig him right back up.
Pete is a rejuvenator. He may dig it, but he'll rejuvenate you. That's what he'll do. The rejuvenating Pete. There it is.
Last week, EK, it was
other games we got to get to.
Yeah, last week, EK, it was annoying.
What was it last week?
It was not annoying. It was anointing. He was anointing. Now he's rejuvenating.
Every week I get SAT word Pete of some kind. Rejuvenating Pete, anointing Pete, bucolic Pete, whatever we want to go with. All right, here we go. Lions, Vikings, 13-3. Lions ahead right now. Dan Campbell says, hey, we're going to play this thing. Vikings really just like a little glimmer of hope for the playoffs, but very unlikely.